The Forests of Maryland, 1850. A small group of enslaved people moved silently through the darkness. No lanterns, no voices, just the sound of breath and footsteps. Ahead of them walks a woman. In one hand, she carries a pistol. In the other, the knowledge of every hidden path north. If anyone turns back, she says, the gun will speak. Because if even one person returns to the plantation, slave catchers will hunt them all. Her name is Harriet Tubman. The United States government has placed a bounty on her head. Slave owners call her a thief. Newspapers call her a criminal. But to the people she leads out of bondage, she becomes something else entirely. The conductor of freedom. Harriet Tubman's story unfolds in the early 19th century United States, when slavery was the foundation of the Southern economy. By the 1820s and 1830s, millions of African Americans were enslaved across the country. In states like Maryland, enslaved people were treated as property, bought, sold, and punished under law. Harriet Tubman was born around 1822 in Dorchester County, on the Eastern Shore. Her birth name was Araminta Ross. While standing in a store, she refused to help capture another enslaved person attempting to escape. An overseer threw a heavy iron weight intending to hit the fleeing man. Instead, it struck her head. The injury caused lifelong seizures, severe headaches, and sudden sleep episodes. Yet, many historians believe the trauma also shaped her intense spiritual visions and religious convictions. Tubman later described vivid dreams and messages she believed came from God. In adulthood, she took the name Harriet after her mother, and she began thinking about freedom. By the late 1840s, Harriet Tubman faced an existential threat. Her enslaver died. So, in 1849, Harriet made a decision that would change American history. She ran. Using knowledge of forests, rivers, and safe routes, Tubman escaped from Maryland and traveled nearly 90 miles north to Pennsylvania. She later recalled the moment she crossed the border into freedom. When I found I had crossed that line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. But freedom alone wasn't enough. Instead of staying safe in the north, Harriet Tubman made an extraordinary choice. She went back. 1849, first escape. Harriet Tubman escapes slavery and reaches Philadelphia, a major abolitionist hub. But within a year, she returns to Maryland to rescue her family. 1850 to 1860, the Underground Railroad missions. Over roughly 13 missions, Tubman repeatedly traveled back into slave territory. She guided enslaved people north using the Underground Railroad, moving them between safe houses run by abolitionists. Destinations included Pennsylvania, New York, and eventually Canada, where American slave laws could not reach them. Tubman used coded songs, stars, and natural landmarks to navigate. Her reputation grew rapidly. Abolitionists nicknamed her Moses. Despite slave catchers and rewards offered for her capture, Tubman reportedly never lost a single passenger. 1857, rescuing her elderly parents. In one of her most daring missions, Tubman returned to Maryland to rescue her elderly parents. 1861 to 1865, the American Civil War. When the American Civil War began, Tubman joined Union forces. She worked as a nurse, a spy, a scout. In 1863, she helped plan and guide the Combahee River Raid, a military assault that destroyed Confederate infrastructure and freed more than 700 enslaved people. Tubman became the first woman in U.S. history to lead an armed military expedition. Harriet Tubman lived most of her life under constant threat. Slave catchers hunted her. Bounties were offered for her capture. Traveling into slave territory meant death or brutal punishment if caught, even after the Civil War. She struggled financially. The U.S. government delayed paying her military pension for years, and despite her role in freeing hundreds, she lived much of her later life in poverty. After the Civil War, Tubman became active in the women's suffrage movement. working alongside figures like Susan Anthony. Today, she is widely recognized as one of the most important resistance figures in American history. Harriet Tubman is often simplified into a heroic legend, but the real story is more radical. She was not just a guide to freedom. She was an insurgent leader who repeatedly infiltrated slave territory, disrupted a powerful economic system, and organized resistance under extreme risk. Her life forces modern audiences to confront difficult truths. Freedom movements rarely come from governments. They are built by people willing to break unjust laws. Tubman reminds us that resistance, especially by those society tries to silence, can reshape history.